Hello, this is Firebreather 238, and today we were talking about what if Deku had the Flood from Halo as his quirk. And I mean everything from Halo, from the infection to the hive mind, or somewhat similar. Anyway, so the time would take place about a year after Izuku thought, or Deku thought, he was going to be quirkless. So what ended up happening is that Izuku will end up. He will end up like the doctor would tell him that he was born quirkless. That's what they thought. Then like Bakugo bullied him like the original canon was like when he was 5 years old, and Bakugo and four of his lackeys were bullying Izuku more. Izuku crying basically, and like next thing he knew is what others knew. Three infection class flood, the small ones, they will appear out of nowhere and just attack Bakugo and the others. Really, Bakugo would deal with at least two of them to try to latch onto him, but the other, like two of his lackeys, the one with the wings, and the one with the long fingers, the flood would end up attaching to them and infecting them. Literally, just get inside their body and transform them into flood. But basically, shocked and horrified Bakugo, the other two lackeys, and Izuku, since the flood came out of nowhere and just attacked Bakugo and his lackeys. So the two lackeys think if I just run away, while the two that was infected end up just attacking Bakugo and trying to kill him, but he ended up killing the both anyway. During that time, Izuku ended up just running away and hiding. Then he had no idea what just happened. Then he basically thought of nothing, or pretty much he didn't know what to think of it. He knew it was some kind of power, but he didn't know what it was anyway. So he didn't tell anyone what happened. But when it comes to Bakugo's case, he was more angry towards Izuku in this case. And it's basically what he sees that Izuku just straight up summoned some creature to kill his two lackeys, or two friends in the case. So he ended up hating him more, bullying him a lot more, end up calling him a villain basically for most of his life. During the time between he was 5 until he was 14, he was basically trained for the past basically 9 years, 9 basically. Anyway, so bullying Izuku a lot training himself to use his powers to create new flood, to be able to build a nest in the middle of the woods where no one can find him or his flood. Literally, he started developing not love for heroes or villains, but hate them. He didn't like any. He started developing hatred towards heroes and villains, but then his hatred started growing more to the point where he ended up starting to hate humanity. He sees quirks turn humanity into what they are: selfish, hateful. Basically, people with overwhelming with pride that shouldn't be heroes at all. So he'd been straight up hating them. Then during time training, he started creating new flood nests. His primary nest is in the woods near Beast Forest, where the camp thing is. Then he has a few nests underneath some location where no one can find them, no one even tried to look for them. So as the nests grow to where even though no one can see the nest and no one can see where the nest is, but end up growing more and more. At this moment, Izuku has about close to 100,000 flood under his control. Most of them are somewhat the infected, the carrier, the regular soldiers. that they end up fighting by accident, and then it's also some. Now this one gonna be some brutes that's actually really just Namus infected with the flood. That end up that all for one had a former where basically all for one had Namus that he didn't want anymore. They basically became useless and basically straight up dead. So the flood infected those corpses to transform into flood as well. Anyway, so we're going to get to the point where he is 14 years old, his last day of school, and he doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care anymore. He's like the cheerful child you think like the sweet cinnamon roll you'll see doesn't exist in this one. He basically straight up hates them, and he doesn't lie about it. He doesn't even hide it. He straight up hates everything. Literally, like when Bakugo bullies Izuku, he straight up punch Bakugo, kicks him, pretty much straight up cuts in his face. Basically, even made Bakugo's ego worse to the point where when he does use his quirk, he literally Izuku's wound will regenerate thanks to his flood, since he got some flood able to regenerate his wounds. Then during the last day of school, when they talk about their future coming heroes, Bakugo, of course, talking about how he's gonna be the number one hero and everything. Also saying that Deku will never become a hero because he has limitless power, etc. But no one believes Izuku. No one believes Bakugo about Izuku's power. But Izuku, he just does a Bakugo. He just basically he just straight up says, like I want to be a worthless hero in the first fucking place. Pretty much, basically shot everybody. Like they all thought even someone like him loved hero, but they for the past 9 years when Bakugo known, like the only one who knew that about Izuku's change was Bakugo and his mother. Like Bakugo knows that apparently Izuku doesn't like heroes, but doesn't like villains either. But he still believes that Izuku will become a villain anyway. So they have no idea what he's going to do. But when right at the class, Izuku end up in the same place where in the classroom, Bakugo and three lackeys ambush him, and basically Bakugo talking about how, and when Bakugo becomes a hero, he will hunt Izuku down, put him in prison, etc. That a villain will never become anything in his life. Izuku's really says to him, "You, a hero, huh? Like you ever be a hero? You may have a quirk, but you sure hell gonna be a worse one. But if I ever made this world better, will burn the ashes than ever be in this world of heroes." They basically feel Bakugo angry to the point where it just explode and end up sending the most deadly explosion to. So basically, in this case, Bakugo doesn't care about when it comes to it. He knows he's gonna get in the UA anyway, so he sends one of the best attacks blow half of Izuku's face. Basically, Bakugo doesn't give a damn. His lackeys are scared, but when they see Izuku's wounds regenerating from everyone, and his wounds regenerating from his face, the exploding me have his right side of his face burned, his eye mostly gone, but when his body regenerated thanks to the flood in his body. Like the flood just regenerated, his eye regenerated, his hair, everything that was burned to ashes. This shot the lackeys more, but Bakugo, he was getting more angry until Izuku ended up just grabbing Bakugo by the arm and straight up kicks him into a wall. And literally, it really would hurt, because it's not like a regular kick. It's more like a kind of combine the strength of a flood brute or a flood Namu in this case. Basically, he would have the strength of a Namu, and it will hurt like heck. When Bakugo gets up, trying to get up, well, look at Izuku again. He doesn't see, he sees Izuku just with it, like his emerald green eyes are now red, literally like crimson red, ready to kill, red, just killer, ready to kill right in front of him. So Bakugo ended up pretty just leaving while also telling Izuku that he won't get away what he just did to him. And when then Izuku just doesn't care. He just pretty much just rolled his eyes and also gave Bakugo the finger. Anyway, so after leaving the classroom and walking down the alleyway, he get attacked by the sludge villain. But he ended up pretty much just not caring. Like the sludge villain tried to get inside of him, but he couldn't because I would say like his flood would also be somewhat resistant to the flood to anything really. So the sludge can't really get inside of Izuku's body. So Izuku will basically like it'll try to get inside of him, but like it won't really get inside anyway. So it will try to attempt to get out. It will attempt to get out too, almost immediately. Then Izuku doesn't walk home exactly. Instead, like his mind is set on this. Like his mind is basically just full of hatred from Bakugo, and the Sludge Villain did make a confirm it where he wants to destroy basically the world and everything with his power. So instead, he ended up going to one of his miniature flood bases that he have close by, which is basically close to. It's like in between his house and his in his middle school, which is basically not. It's basically like a factory, which basically a factory will also on the top or on the ground underneath it. It's like a full blown flood base, literally like about hundreds of flood pods ready to be used, 100 flood already swarming around and ready to be used. So he ended up walking to the base, going into the factory. Then the first thing he sees is a infected flood soldiers, and literally he ended up pretty much want to use them first. So he ordered 600 flood soldiers and send them out into the world just to create havoc, while also sending some flood carriers as well. So 600 flood soldiers and 400 flood carriers behind them, with also some about 300 flood brutes as well, literally just creating havoc. And then right after that, he ended just walking home while his flood started doing work. Literally, like they start like how the flood attack will happen. Like they will not go to the surface and attack immediately. They will go through the sewers to get to where they're more populated. So probably during the time, they will appear during the time when Bakugo is being attacked by the sludge villain, and literally like when that's fight happening, the flood will pop out of the sewers, attacking everyone in sight. Literally, like the first thing will pop up will be the flood brutes and the flood soldiers. They'll be the first one to be attacked, the first one to pop out, and they will literally attack anyone right close to them. Then the flood carrier will follow suit, literally right after them, and they would come to them then they would I know the original how the carrier worked, that if you attack them they would explode and then the flood would happen. This one ended up with two ideas. It would be the same thing, but also there's a second way they can actually just explode themselves to do it too. Where I know it only happens if someone get close, but it would do it on its own. Where it's carrying, I'm not sure how many flood it actually carries, but we're gonna say close to 55 infection for each carrier. But Mega Carrier carries about close to 200 anyway. So this one will carry about 50 anyway. So it will explode at least at the center of a bunch of down heroes and civilians that right there after the flood soldiers and brutes start making havoc, killing a lot. when they explode, they would attack. They would attach and affect all the other ones around them and expand more and more. And like, Izuku would be home at the time, literally. Basically, his mother would be watching the news, watching the flood attack, and literally Izuku would just watch. Like, he basically smiling, but he's not. He doesn't show that he's smiling, but he's actually smiling, smirking. Basically, he doesn't. He basically happy that what he's doing. Like, he doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care for anything for the humans either. So Izuku will basically during the time, Izuku will try to strategize what to do next because he has over hundreds of major flood bases around all Japan, and literally had them on standby, ready for use. And Zuko will end up using it a little later, literally a different timeline. So he even have one underneath the end. I'm not gonna do this anyway. So when Izuku basically during time about, let's say about 20 during the attack, at like the pro hero was able to make work of the flood again. Like they could get the soldier and the flood Namu and the flood soldiers, then dealt with the carriers, then dealt with the resurrected civilian hero soldier they did, and like the amount of civilians was like close to over thousands, and heroes like close to hundreds, and it was like a massacre. It was the darkest time. They never seen anything like this. They never experienced something like the flood. Never experienced like this. So right after they were dealt with, the police and pro heroes, surviving pro heroes, will try to take the remaining flood, take the flood to be examined, try to figure out what the hell are these things and where they came from, how they got here, and is it possible something else happened. So after about a couple months later, like during the entry exam, like Izuku doesn't go to the entry exam, except he just watches from the rooftop where he's able to see everything. So he has a few flood even inside UA. So a few flood nests. He has one so he'd be inside one of the cities, or all the testing cities. So when the exam starts, they had when like about close to the middle of the exam, the 0 pointer would pop out of nowhere, and a few things happen. Everything happened the same thing except for either the one who saved Baraka instead of Zuko's out there. Anyway, so after the 0 point was defeated, immediately after, the flood pops up again, and this time much force. Literally thousands of flood Namus and flood soldiers, as well as flood carriers, and like close to millions of flood infected, and literally it would attack a human that's close by. And immediately after, the UA Canada would give authority to potentially neutralize them as well, with all the time pro heroes get inside as well. They even now I know the flood really can't affect technology, but in this case I'm gonna make them do this one. So they would also the flood would able to infect and transform the 0 point robots, as well as all pointer robots, as well as the 0 pointer. So he can revive them, able to infect them and have them fight as well using lethal force too. So Zuko just watched the whole thing with a smirk. Like, he's just watching the whole thing go down. Like, he sees thousands of candidates between injured and killed, heroes injured. Like, All Might was there. Eraser was there. Everybody was there. They didn't know how to deal with it. And after about 2 hours of fighting the flood, the pro heroes in Canada was able to clear them out. And after that, Izuku just leaves, literally with a smirk, also thinking that that's just how far they'll go. And Izuku will basically just leaves and go home, and with thinking about another thing to do. So As the pro heroes gathered gather all the flood that was at the exam, trying to figure out what the hell happened, how the hell did the flood get inside of the most top secure school in Japan and one of the best schools. While the parents of the candidates were worried, thinking that something like this happened, how is it even possible? So, like at first, the candidates thought they were going that the flood part of the exam, but they remember that it's impossible since they never mentioned the flood at all. So, the students given at least 4 weeks until they able to get a note saying they get able to come to school. Then, like Izuku basically, the pro heroes examine some of the flood. They able to identify the fact that these are called the flood. They have parasitic alien species, but no idea how they got here or how they got into UA without getting noticed. So during the time, once they examined some of them, try to figure out how they got here, they able to scan, able to dissect the field, able to find out that these were summoned or generated, and literally they know they think they are official ones or something like that, but they found that it was they found that these were also someone's power, someone's power was able to summon these alien creatures to them, and they had no idea how it's even possible. So basically, they're shocked trying to figure out who possibly created the creatures and why they're doing this. They all might think that it's all for one, because the fact that some of these creatures are brutes that kind of have, because some of the soldiers and brutes, flood Namus can use the quirks of the previous users. Basically, all my thinking that it's all for one, while others thinking it's someone else's. Because they confirmed it is recent, close to probably not far back, during the first time of quirks, but during the time this generation of people, superpower people have the power of these creatures, and no one knows who what, but except for Bakugo, who did encounter them during his time. So he thinks that he knows that it's Izuku's flood creatures. He knows it's him, but he doesn't tell anyone about them. He doesn't tell anyone the fact that Izuku had the power of these aliens. That Izuku had the power to create these creatures that attacking on his will. So after pretty much then about 4 weeks after that, Eric got has the medicine to get able to come to UA. They got sent into UA, etc. So everything plays out for most of it. Then about a couple weeks later, during the USJ attacks, we're going straight to the USJ. We don't care about anything else. So the USJ will stay the same, except for the fact that the villains feel the hero comes into Class 1A, Ozawa and 13 comes to the USJ. The villain pops into a portal, and then the fight. But then, during the fight, then All Might appears as reinforcements, and then battle begins. But then during the middle of the fight, something shook the ground underneath them. It felt like someone was banging trying to get up. So then the final push, a massive a hive mind flood smashed to the ground, opened out, and just right there, and then coming out of the hole, hundreds of flood coming out of it, flood soldiers, flood carrier, flood inside, everything, all the floods popping out at once, and Zuko is watching from afar. He can see through the eyes of the flood he's doing. He's ordering an attack on everything. The Class 1A and the villain never prepared for this. They didn't expect the flood would appear right in the USJ. And a massive flood right there. So the flood Namus and the original Namu just trying to fight, but literally the regular Namu being overrun by the flood and literally transformed into one of them. And more villains start also being affected the same way. Clan Front A is literally trying to fight for survival, but some of them were able to be infected too. Like Moretta got affected, Sora got affected, Kota, Joro, Suyu, and a few, most like half of Clan Front A would be infected by now. So after they got affected, they basically most of all the all the other Clan dealt with them. Literally, right? Like it didn't take quickly. It took a while. After the villains were putting forward treat. Like Shiraki and Karagir were the only villains that survived the massacre, while I have a Class 1A, which is basically Bakugo, Todoroki, Ida, Uraka, Joro, Karashima Denki, Tokiyami, Visible Girl, and I forgot what I was saying. So they were the only survivors, plus Izawa 13 and All Might. So after the flood was dealt with as well, reinforcement pro heroes came in, then they dealt with the rest of the flood. But when it came to the hive mind that appeared, the hive mind ended up retreat underground and literally disappearing from them. While the pro heroes couldn't do anything to stop the hive mind from retreating or hiding. And right now the pro hero think that the hive mind is the leader of these creatures. They didn't know that the Izuku is the one leading them, except for Izuku and Bakugo. So after the pro heroes got as much as have the rest of the students out of the USJ and multiple it got so bad that the JDF were sent to UA trying to figure out what the hell they wanted some of the military trying to figure out what the hell is going on with these things. So they end up pretty much they catch him multiple. There were some that were still alive. Some flood they were actually able to catch that was still alive, trying to figure out what the hell these were. And Bakugo just straight up having enough is enough, so he ended up just telling the pro heroes everything about Izuku, about these creatures, how basically these creatures are Izuku's power, that he had the power to create these creatures that are attacking them for the past couple of weeks. The attack during the flood attack, the attack during the exam, during the entry exam, and the attack on the USJ. The pro heroes are shocked by this by a human is attacking them, but Bakugo also explained that that Izuku doesn't like heroes, that he basically despises heroes and villains at the same time. He despises basically all of humanity, and these flood are the perfect example of that. So anyway, so this is just part one of what if Izuku had the flood as his quirk. I'll make a part two as fast as I can. Thank you.